Good day. In this video presentation, we are going to talk about the different theories of human development. Of course, there are different theories presented by different people. Each theory is presented by a proponent. A proponent is a person who discuss what is the development happening to a person based on the key point or the aspect of development. So what are the aspects of development that we will discuss and the theories behind them? These are cognitive and language development, emotional development, psychosocial and moral development. So those are some of the aspects of development that we will encounter and discuss what are the theories of development behind them. There are some theories of human development that has different stages and some has different sub-stages. As we go along in our discussion, you will get to know how a person develops based on the different life stages that I discussed last video presentation. So, as you know how a person develop, you can adjust your design or you can design your teaching strategies, methodologies, and approaches based on the actual development of your learners. If you will be given a chance to handle youngsters or pupils, then your teaching approaches, teaching strategies, and methodologies should adapt the development that your learners are undergoing. So the same as the elderly or the high school students, no? Since you are having a bachelor's degree in secondary education, of course, we are expecting you to handle high school students as you graduate. But there is a chance that once you graduate, no, pwede kayo ay mabigyan ng load na magturo sa elementary. So, magkakaroon kayo ng mga pupils, mga mas batang student, no, compared doon sa na-train kayo dito sa bachelor's degree. Okay? So, do you know that Bachelor of Secondary Education can handle elementary students? Kasi yung inyong curriculum or yung inyong mga courses ay designed para sa inyo na makapagturo on both higher level and lower level. Okay? But unlike Bachelor of Elementary Education, they are just allowed to teach to, of course, elementary pupils and pwedeng kindergarten. Pero hindi sila pwedeng move forward or magturo sa mas mataas na level kasi ang kanilang bachelor's degree is pang elementary education lang. So what is the difference between the two? Pag high school kasi or secondary education, we have specification of the major or the course or the subject that we're going to teach. Okay? So katulad nyo, may English major, may math major, may science major. Pero sa elementary education, it's more of general education. That is why in the board exam, no, sa board exam, pag secondary education, there are three categories or division ng exam. No? Unang ibibigay sa inyo is the general education, which comprises 20% of your final average sa board exam. The next one is the professional education. So, yun ay 40% ng inyong final average sa board exam. And the last one is the specialization. That is the 40% ng final average nyo sa board exam. Pero, pagdating sa elementary education, nagbabago yung percentage para makuha yung final average sa board exam. Kasi, magkaiba tayo ng exam, no? Sila, meron lang silang general education at professional education exam. Wala sila ng specification. Kasi again, once you are an elementary education elementary education student, no, you are being prepared to handle different subjects as you teach, no, pagka-graduate. Okay? Pero sa inyo, you are being focused on certain area or subject lang, subject matter. Okay? So that's the difference. Now, yung kaninang ina-explain ko is just between high school and the elementary. Okay? So, ngayon, ibang usapan naman kapag tertiary education. Kapag ikaw ay graduate ng bachelor's degree at gusto mo magturo sa isang college or tertiary institution, no? Dapat meron ka munang master's degree or doctoral degree. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan para makapagturo tayo sa isang tertiary institution, dapat yung alam natin is mas mataas pa beyond doon sa nakuha natin sa ating bachelor's degree. So you have there on your screen an image of John Piaget and his cognitive theory of development. This person is very famous, especially in education student, because he explained how a human mind works. He also explained the mental processes that is happening in each specific life stages. He has four major stages in his theory, and in each stages, he described how mental processes occur in each age group. Who is John Piaget? Let us start discussing his background first. He was born in 1896 in Switzerland and died in 1980. He wrote and published his first scientific paper on the albino sparrow at age 11 and received his doctorate degree in biology at age 22. So as you notice, this person is in the scientific field, and his work on the theory of cognitive development is primarily used for scientific purposes. But his work is adopted in the field of psychology, since psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and the human behavior. Piaget studied his children's intellectual development first before he made experiments from other children. Through his research, Piaget identified four stages of children's mental growth. His research in developmental psychology and genetic epistemology led to one unique goal, and he became curious of this question: how does knowledge grow in a person? So he is a Swiss scholar who studied children's intellectual development during the 1920s and became interested in thought processes when he was hired to field test questions that were being considered for a standard intelligence test for children. So he was supposed to find the age at which most children could answer each question correctly, but eventually, he became more interested in the children's wrong answers. So what intrigued him? Children of the same age made similar types of mistakes. Bakit kaya yan nangyari? So he suggests that there is a developmental sequence to intellectual growth. And he believed that how children think is much more important and more revealing of their mental ability than what they know. According to him, children are neither driven by undesirable instincts nor molded by environmental influences. So based on his findings, cognitive processes is something happening within ourselves. So it is intrinsic. So cognitive processes is not influenced by any other outside factors. He views children as curious, active explorers who respond to the environment according to their understanding of its essential features. And he later on formulated this theory. According to him, the way people think and understand shapes their behavior and personality. So his focus is on how individuals construct their knowledge. Here are the basic cognitive concepts that you must understand before we move on to the 4 stages of cognitive theory of development. The first one is schema. It is a cognitive structure by which individuals intellectually adapt to and organize their environment. In short, a schema is your prior knowledge about something. It is the organization of the ideas and concepts that you have in mind about something. If I ask you, what is your schema about fruits? So what is your prior knowledge about fruits? So some of you might answer that fruits come from plants, and fruits are products of fertilized flowers. Some will answer that fruits may taste sweet and may taste sour. So that is your example of schema. So it is basically your prior knowledge about something. It can be about people, places, things, food, and events. Number 2 is assimilation. When we say assimilation, it is fitting new experience into an existing or previously created cognitive structure or schema. Once you created your schema, then you have your prior knowledge about something. Then afterwards, you experience something that you can adapt to what you know about something. So basically, you have formed your previously learned knowledge. Then based from your experience, you learn something on that, and then you adapt to what you already know. So it's just like adding what you already know about something, and then you add that to your previously learned knowledge or your schema. In assimilation, it does not mean that your knowledge will come solely to your experience. You can also learn something without experiencing it. So in assimilation, we can also consider that you have your previously learned knowledge, that's your schema, that's your prior knowledge about something, or your old knowledge, then you add or you plus, no, plus sign, you add another knowledge that you encounter or learn on that particular time. Then when you add them up, that process is now called assimilation. In line with our previous example about schema earlier, let us have another example parallel to that for assimilation. Let's think that you are still studying about fruit. And aside from your previous knowledge on fruits, you have your new learning about fruit, like fruits come from plants, but not all plants bear fruit. So that makes sense, no? Because not all plants bear flowers. So definitely not all plants bear fruit, because as what I said earlier, fruits come from fertilized flower. Assimilation is possible if your new knowledge and your old knowledge is fit together. If they are fit together to be combined, then definitely your schema or your knowledge about something will have a stronger bond. So it means your knowledge is now stronger. In contrast to assimilation is accommodation. It is a process of creating new schema. So modifying existing schemata to satisfy the requirements of your new experiences. If your new knowledge and your old knowledge does not fit together, it means that they will be understood separately. Let us say that you have here a set of concepts. This set of concepts is built upon previously learned knowledge. Then here comes another set of knowledge. This set of knowledge are new, but it does not fit your previously learned concept or previously learned knowledge. Okay, so that new knowledge will be separately understood. You will create another concept differentiating that concept from the previous one. For example, let us talk about the ingredients of chop suey. It includes bagu beans, carrots, chop suey, and some they include tenga ng daga. Okay? Among those four that I mentioned, okay, all of them are vegetables. They are considered in the kitchen as vegetables. All of them are plants except for one. So that is tenga ng daga. Tenga ng daga is a kind of mushroom. And technically speaking, mushroom belongs to the kingdom of fungi in the scientific field. Okay? So, mushroom or the tenga ng daga that is included in the chop suey, okay, although it is considered as vegetables, but it's not really come from plants, okay, because the connotation for vegetables they come from plants. But in my example of chop suey, because some include tenga ng daga in their ingredients for that, no, tenga ng daga is not it is not a plant, although it is considered as vegetable. So there, you create your new concept of vegetable. Okay, so before you can say that vegetables come from plants, but since I taught you this time about the tenga ng daga, you now build another concept that not all vegetables are plants or come from plants, because I give you an example about tenga ng daga that is technically speaking it is mushroom. It does not come from plants. Moving on, we have number 4, equilibration. This is a process of achieving proper balance between assimilation and accommodation. Number 5, we have cognitive disequilibrium. This means that there is a discrepancy between what is perceived and what is understood. So those are the 5 basic cognitive concepts that we must acquire before going to the stages of the theory of cognitive development. So among the 4 stages, the first one is sensorimotor stage. So it covers birth to 2 years of age. Infants here use sensory and motor capabilities to explore and gain a basic understanding of the environment. So at birth, they have only innate reflexes with which to engage the world. Those reflexes are instinct to them. So no one ever thought about how to grab using their hand, or no one thought how to find the nipples of the mother if they want to suck it, or if they want to take in food. Okay, so that example is what we call rooting reflex. So rooting reflex is a reflex wherein the baby tries to find whatever is touching near his or her mouth. So when the mother tries to feed her baby, what she will do is just to put her nipples near the mouth of the baby, and then the reflex of the baby is to find it. So we call that as rooting reflex. Of course, there are a lot of reflex starting from birth up to 12 to 18 months of age, but that will be taught separately in our different video presentation. The first experience develops continuously on its encounter. So those knowledge are practical and experience-based kind of early intelligence. Again, those knowledge are caught on first hand. Remember, for the baby or the infant to understand the things around him or her, what they will do is to use their sensory and motor capabilities. So as you notice, those infants, no, especially yung below 1 year of age, if you try to give them an object, observe what they will do, no? Aside from looking at the object, no, of course they try to manipulate the object, and then later on, after feeling it and touching it, what they will do is to bite it, no, or they try to taste the object. Okay, so as you notice, multiple sensory organs are used for them to fully understand what the object is. And this sensory motor stage is the lowest cognitive level as the child tries to build their schema on the object or on the things around them. Okay, so they are just building first their cognitive structure. So the children or the child is trying to establish first their prime cognitive structure. Now, how learning takes place depends on what is experienced in the beginning. Okay, so that's what I explained earlier. So children become little scientists. Okay, they understand things around them, no, by just simply doing trial and error method. So si bata, no, si infant, once you give them an object, let's say that infant is around 2 years old, once you give them an object, of course they will as much as possible, they will try to use as many sensory organs. Okay? And they will manipulate the object using their hands. So aside from their hands, they will use other body parts, okay, to have locomotion. Okay? It can be fine or gross motor locomotion that that is relative in understanding the object given to them. Okay? So you may notice that the children tries to do different things or different action towards the object that you give them. Okay? So, pwede nilang pukpukin yun, or pwede nilang pukpukin, itama sa semento, kung ano ba mangyari, ikakalog nila. Okay? Shake nila, papakinggan nila, titignan nila. Okay? So, there are many possible scenario. Okay? But that that sense falls under trial and error method. Okay. At this stage, infants learn that objects continue to exist when they are out of sight. So we call that object permanence. So for example, si bata nakaupo sa table. Sa harap niya is his mother. Okay? Ngayon si mother, kilala ni bata yung mother niya. Okay? So, alam ni bata, nare-recognize ni bata kung ano yung itsura ng kanyang mommy. Okay? Ngayon, si mommy naman, biglang nagtago sa ilalim ng table. Okay? So, si bata, you cannot fool them, you cannot tell them, no? Or they will not try to think that their mother is really gone. Hindi talaga siya nawala. Okay? At this stage,
children have what we call object permanence. Okay? Again, they have this skill that they consider things or objects even it's not in their sight, they still believe that it still exists. Katulad si nanay, yung mami nila. Okay? After sensory motor stage, we have intuitive or the pre-operational stage. It covers 2 to 6 years of age. So as the child as the child age, they increases the ability to store words and language structures. So there is already a capacity to understand and make use of the words. So as early as the very young age, the children acquire and try to learn the language by understanding first, or acquiring first, the set of words that we have in our language. As what the title of this stage say, so intuitive. When we say intuitive, diba, it means having the ability to understand or know something even without any direct evidence or reasoning process. So once they believe on something, they really believe on that. Okay? So children use symbolism, images, and language to represent and understand various aspects of the environment. So in the next coming slides, I will explain to you and prove to you why the children in this stage are very intuitive, okay? And how we relate their use of symbolism in becoming an intuitive person. So here are the important terms that you must understand under the intuitive or the pre-operational stage. So as much of the explanation that I will have here, you can relate them to how the children uses symbolism, or how the children use symbolism and relate that to how become an intuitive person. So let us start with the number one, symbolic function. This is the ability to represent objects and events. That is symbolic function. Number two is egocentrism. It is the tendency of the child to only see his point of view and to assume that everyone also has his same point of view. So we call that as egocentrism. So it's like a self-centered point of perspective. Relating to egocentrism is being a selfish. So as you notice, yung mga bata na between 2 to 6 years of age, no, mapapansin nyo na sila ay ayaw magpahiram ng laruan or ayaw magbigay ng food na meron sila. Okay, so that's very normal that those age group ay madamot sa ibang tao or sa ibang bata. Okay? So, as a teacher, no, so what you will try to establish to them is the values, okay, and the good manners in socializing to other people. So, ito nga, tinuturo ko sa inyo ano yung mga characteristics ng mga bawat bata in specific stages or specific age group. Okay? So, once you already know and understood those characteristics of the children, then you are the one, you as the teacher, will try to adjust and for the benefit of the child. Okay? So, tayo naman yung magtuturo sa kanila. Okay, pakikiusapan natin sila, magpapaliwanag tayo sa kanila kung bakit bakit hindi dapat magdamot sa ibang bata even at this normal stage na sila ay madamot. Number 3 is centration. This refers to the tendency of the child to only focus on one aspect of a thing or event and exclude other aspects. So when we will call an event as centration to the child, okay? Let's say I have here a child in front of me. I will give you a scenario. So, yung bata na nasa harap ko, pinakitaan ko siya ng dalawang basong may magkaiba ng laki. Okay? I'm talking about the width of the circumference of the glass. Okay? But they have the same height. Okay? Let's say si glass A ay mas malaki ang circumference compared sa glass B. Okay? Now, I have 100 milliliters of water. So, 100 ml ng water. Parehas kong lalagyan ng 100 ml ang glass A at glass B. Okay? Kayo as adult, I want you to imagine that alin doon sa dalawa ang magkakaroon ng mas mataas na level ng tubig pag pinag-compare natin silang dalawa. Okay? So, the answer is glass B. Kasi nga, mas narrow si glass B, I mean, mas maliit yung kanyang circumference. So, kapag binuhos natin yung 100 ml, mas magmumukha siyang mataas. Okay? So, si bata, pag tinanong ko siya, alin sa dalawang baso ang merong mas maraming tubig? Okay? Ang sasagutin ni bata is yung glass B. Kasi siya yung magmumukhang mas mataas ang level ng tubig. Okay? Pero tayong mga adults, okay? We know that parehas lang ng laman ng dami ng water ang meron sa glass A at glass B. Parehas lang silang 100 ml. Okay? Pero sa cognitive level ng mga 2 to 6 years of age, okay, what is happening to them or what is occurring in their mind is the process of centration. Okay? So, si bata, what he just considered is the height of the water in the glass without considering the properties of the glass that I presented to him. Okay? And he did not consider the amount of water distributed in each glass. Okay? So, basta ang tinignan niya lang is the height of the glass. The height of the water inside the glass. So, nakita niya si glass B na mas mataas. He just answered my question na si glass B ang mas maraming tubig compared doon sa isa pang baso. Next is number 4, irreversibility. Okay, so children still have the inability to reverse their thinking. For example, okay, so between 2 to 6 years of age, tinanong mo si bata ng 1 plus 1. Okay, the answer is 2. So, kaya niyang sagutin yun. Next, nagtanong ka ulit ng 2 plus 3. So, that statement, 2 plus 3, the answer is 5. So, we have their mathematical equation na 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay? So, sa irreversibility, we know that pag yung 5 is sinubtract natin ng 3. Pabaliktad yung process. So, start tayo sa pinaka-sum kanina. So, 5 minus 3 is equals to blank. So, kapag ganong statement na yung binigay natin sa kanila, hindi na kaya ng bata yon because they have what we call irreversibility to them. So, they don't know how to answer that. Kahit pa sabihin mo sa kanila na binaliktad mo lang yung tanong mo kanina. Kahit maglumpasay ka dyan, ikaw yung nagtututor sa kanya, ikaw yung nagtuturo sa kanya. Kahit magalit ka sa kanya, hindi niya pa rin yun maiintindihan. Pwede niyang masagot ng tama, pero pwedeng tsamba lang yun. Okay? Kasi it's very normal that in this stage, they have what we call irreversibility. They will not understand things that they already know once you flip the idea, or you flip the um ang tawag dito, the analogy. Okay? So irreversibility does not speak solely about numbers or about mathematics. It can even happen in other scenarios. So for example, bigyan mo si bata ng pair of slipper. Si bata, they will just wear it without considering that they must wear the slipper on the proper left and right side, or right part of the slipper. Okay? So pwedeng masuot nila ng baliktaran na yung nasa kaliwang paa, ang suot nila is pangkanan na tsinelas. Okay? They will not notice that kasi sa kanila that's the same thing. Okay? And once you tell them na ito ay baliktad yung pagkakasuot nila, that's still irreversible to them. Okay? Another thing that the child will not notice, or another example of irreversibility event to them. No? Bigyan nyo sila ng damit. Pasuotin nyo sila ng damit. They will not recognize na pwedeng nagkamali sila ng pagsuot ng damit. Pwedeng yung harap, ang suot nila is nasa likod, at yung damit na dapat nasa labas, nakatapat sa labas, is nakatapat naman sa loob, nakabaliktad din. So, pwedeng ganun yung mangyari. So, that event is what we call irreversibility to the pre-operational or the intuitive state. Number 5 is animism. This is the tendency of children to attribute human-like traits or characteristics to inanimate object. Okay? So, for example, mga bata sa isang kindergarten school, the teacher asks the pupils to this question. Okay? The question is, where is the sun? Okay? So, si teacher kasi is merong storytelling inside the classroom. Okay? At doon sa kanyang storytelling, si Sun kasi wala doon sa image or doon sa illustration na meron siya sa book. Okay? Ang nakikita ng bata is a plain dark blue sky, okay, with the moon, with the bright moon and the stars. Okay? So from the statement na where is the sun, ang isasagot ng mga bata doon sa statement na yon is something like the sun has life, or para siyang they will consider that as a living organism. So, pwedeng member ng family, pwedeng gano'n. No? So, kapag nung tinanong nasan si Sun, dahil wala doon sa site nila, ang sinagot lang ng mga bata is, Mr. Sun is asleep. Okay? Wala doon si Mr. Sun at nakikita ng mga bata na gabi na. So, anong gagawin ng araw nga naman kung ito ay isang living organism, kung parang isang tao or member ng family? Okay? So, kapag gabi, ano ang ginagawa? Siyempre, tayo ay natutulog. So, that's the answer of the children. Okay? Next, number 6 is transductive reasoning. This is the tendency of a child in the pre-operational stage of cognitive development to see a connection between unrelated instances. So they use neither deductive nor inductive means to do so. I hope you know what is deductive and inductive reasoning based from your senior high school days, no? So let us go back here in transductive reasoning. For example, the child might say, I haven't had my nap. So he asked his mother and father that, so since I haven't had my nap yet, so it means it's not yet afternoon. Okay. Another thing, no, when you ask a child, no, um, when you ask the child, is it night? Okay, and then the reasoning or the answer of the child is this. Um, it's already night because mom is already here. She always go home at 6 p.m. Okay. So, ang reasoning ni bata, gabi na kasi andito na si mami, umuwi na siya galing trabaho. So, kapag nagkataon na si mami niya ay hindi pa umuwi, hanggat hindi pa umuwi si mami niya, at tinanong siya ng same question, okay? Pero, ang nangyari is past 6 na. Kapag nangyari ganun, hindi pa umuwi si mami at past 6 na, but for us, technically it is already evening. Kay bata, it's not yet evening hanggat hindi pa umuwi yung kanyang mother. So those are the 6 important terms or key concepts under intuitive or the pre-operational stages. Again, number 1 is symbolic function. Next, we have egocentrism. Number 3, we have centration. 4 is irreversibility. Number 5 is animism. And number 6 is transductive reasoning. Let us now go on here. I have here a question. How preschoolers think, because we cover between 2 to 6 years of age. So young children make rapid intellectual advancements during the preschool years. A new form of thinking that allows them to solve problems using some internal reflection. So that is why at this age, no, we start to let them write their own diary, and because of that, they are given a chance to practice in solving some problems that is related, no, or using their reflection in their daily diary. Next, preschoolers are egocentric, na banggit niya kanina. They believe everyone sees the world as they sees it. Okay? Preschoolers often pay attention to one aspect of an event and ignore other details. So among the 6 important terms that I mentioned earlier, ano kaya to doon? So ito ay centration. Okay, dito sa first statement, this is egocentrism. Next, once a preschooler has come to a conclusion, it is difficult to reverse their thinking. So this is irreversibility. Next, they can now think about objects or people that are not present and can reflect upon things they cannot see, hear, touch, or act upon. So yung kaninang object permanence ay mas tumindi compared sa ating sensorimotor stage. So they can imagine objects or people and represent them in make-believe and can contemplate future events and recall past ones. Okay? So meron tayo ditong animism at meron din tayo dito nabanggit na or related to symbolic function. Okay, siya na ako. Okay. Next slide, we have this one. Piaget has proposed that preschoolers are still limited cognitively. Of course, they are of the very young age, and their cognitive structure is not yet fully established. So they think in qualitatively different ways than adults. They more of description, characteristics. They are observing things, and based on that, they build upon their cognitive structure. Okay. Piaget has proposed that preschoolers are still limited cognitively. Nabasa ko pala yan kanina. And then this one, preschoolers believe inanimate objects are alive. It's perfectly common for a preschooler to believe a stuffed bear has feelings. It's challenging for a preschooler to gauge amounts. This is because of the centration, 'di ba? The children of this age, they have problem in considering or concentrating to the other properties of the objects.
So this time, let us talk about what is memory. Memory is the ability to encode, retain, and recall information over time. So children must learn to encode objects, people, and places in their memory, and later be able to record them for very long-term memory. So preschoolers have the language skills to describe what they remember, and they can follow directions on simple memory tasks. This is the recognition ability or recognition memory of the preschooler is remarkably good and becomes even more accurate by the end of early childhood. And in young children's memory, it is much poorer for recall than recognition. Recognition ability will be developed to children with starting from the age of 8 to 9. Number 3, memory for everyday experiences. The episodic memory involves selecting experiences, relating them to another experiences, and relating them to one another on the basis of previous knowledge. And children also have their memory for some familiar events. Number 4, children have an inherent curiosity about the world, so it prompts a need to learn as much as possible. This is the third stage in the cognitive development theory of John Piaget. So, concrete operational stage starts from 7 to 11 years of age. Children develop a logical thinking in relation to functions, and they are no longer fooled by appearances. And by relying on the cognitive operations, they now understand the basic properties and relations among the objects and events in the everyday world. Concrete operational stage. In this stage, children are now able to solve concrete or hands-on problems in logical function. So, concrete problems are any problem that can be seen or visualized by them. So, they can now understand the laws of conservation and are able to classify and seriate, understands, and they also understand reversibility. So at this stage, they become much more proficient at inferring motives by observing other behavior and the circumstances in which it occurs. Here are the important terms that you must remember under this stage. Children at this stage can now do what we call decentering. So it refers to the ability of the child to perceive the different features of objects and situations. So, unlike the previous stage wherein children just focus on one aspect or property of the object they are observing, but in this stage they can now consider that there are other properties or other characteristics that are present in the object that they are observing. So in number two, we have now the reversibility. So reversibility of the child can now follow the certain operations can be done in reverse. So they now practice what we call reversibility. So the one that I gave earlier, yung example natin kanina is the 2 plus 3 is equals to 5. When we reverse that equation, we can ask the students or the child, no, 5 minus 3 is equals to what? No, so that reversed equation is now understood by the child, and at this stage they can now answer that. No, so if we ask them with that equation, they can now answer us with number 2. So conservation, this is the ability to know that certain properties of objects like mass, number, and volume or area do not change even if there is a change in appearance. So that is our conservation. So what we mean by conservation, like when we talk about the unit of properties in measuring the mass or the length. Let's say if we're going to convert 1 meter to centimeter, we all know that 100 centimeter is equals to 1 meter. So we conserve that principle that centimeter in certain amount can be translated or converted to meter. No? So when we say 1 kilogram, that's equals to 1000 grams. So that is a conservation ability that can be observed at this third stage. Now, number four, we have what we call seriation. So this refers to the ability to order or arrange things in a series based on dimensions such as weight, volume, or size. So uh, children at this stage can now do ordering or arranging things based on a certain property of the object that they are observing. And now let us go on to the last stage of this cognitive development. So we have the formal operations. This starts from 11 years of age and beyond. So at this stage, they are now able to solve abstract problems in logical function. So kung kanina, yung previous stage natin, we talk about concrete problems. But this time in formal operations, students can also seek and understand problems that cannot be seen with their naked eye or cannot be visualized. So these problems are abstracts, no? So they can now understand and solve that in their logical function. In logical function. So children becomes more scientific in thinking, and they can no longer is logical thinking limited to the concrete or observable. So yun na nga, they can also consider abstract things, and children enjoy pondering hypothetical issues, and as a result they may become rather idealistic. So here are the important terms or characteristics that can be observed in this formal operation stage. So we have what we call hypothetical reasoning. This is the ability to come up with the different hypotheses about a problem and to gather and weigh data in order to make a final decision. We also have what we call the analogical reasoning. So this is the ability to perceive the relationship in one instance and then use that relationship to narrow down possible answers in another similar situation or problem. So in this analogical reasoning, they try to compartmentalize or cut down big issues or big objects to smaller objects so that they can understand it better. In deductive reasoning, this is the ability to think logically by applying a general rule to a particular instance or situation. So, for example, all countries near North Pole is cold, of course. Um, so we can mean that we can name one country that is near the North Pole. So we can say that that is called country. No? Let's say um, Greenland is near the North Pole, so we can say that Greenland is a cold country. Now, here are the Piaget's phases of cognitive development or Piaget's stages of cognitive development. So, phase or stage, they can do the same way. So, we have the first one, the sensorimotor. This will just be a recall of what I have discussed earlier. So we have sensory motor stage, starts from birth to age of 2. In description, they use sensory organs and muscle becomes more functional and they use it to understand the things around them. So in this phase, kaya pa siya sineparate lang at this slide for a phase because I have here two substages for this main stage ng sensory motor. So this substage 1, the use of reflexes starts from birth to 1 month. So movements are primarily reflexive. Stage 2, primary circular reaction. So at age of 1 to 4 months, so perception center around one's body. Objects are perceived as extensions of their self. At the sub-stage 3 of this sensory motor stage, we have secondary circular reaction. So at this 4 to 8 months, children becomes more aware of external environment. They initiate acts to change the movement. Sub-stage 4, coordination of secondary schemata. So 8 to 12 months, they differentiate goals and goal-directed activities. At stage 5, tertiary circular reaction at 12 to 18 months. So experiments with methods to reach goals, they develop rituals that become significant. At the sub-stage 6, invention of new means. So 18 to 24 months, the uses mental imagery to understand the environment. And the uses fantasy. Next stage is we have the pre-operational stage. So this starts in 2 to 7 years of age. So we now have the emergence of ability of them to think. So children use symbolism such as images and language to represent and understand various aspects of their environment. The sub-stage under this pre-operational stage is the pre-conceptual stage. Starts from 2 to 4 years of age. So thinking tends to be egocentric. When we say egocentric, this is self-centeredness of the children. And the children exhibit use of symbolism. In the second sub-stage of this main stage, we have the intuitive stage of about 4 to 7 years. And children are unable to break down a whole into separate parts, and they are able to classify objects according to one trait. The third stage is the concrete operation. So it starts from 7 to 11 years of age. So children learn to uh, reason about the events between here and now, and they can understand the basic properties and relations among objects and events in the everyday world, and they are able to solve concrete or hands-on problems in logical function. The last stage is the formal operational stage that starts from 11 years and beyond, and children are able to see relationships and to reason out in abstract, and they become more scientific in thinking, and they are capable of systematic and deductive reasoning. Here are the other summary of Piaget's four stages of cognitive development. So in sensorimotor stage, children are concerned with gaining motor control and learning about physical objects. At the pre-operational stage, they are preoccupied with verbal skills, and at this point, child can name objects and reason intuitively. This is the start that they can now use their cognitive thinking. At, at the third stage, we have the concrete operational stage that deals with the abstract concepts such as numbers and relationships. And at the highest or the last stage is the formal operational stage that begins to reason logically and systematically. As you can notice in this concrete operational stage, children can understand and solve concrete problems, whereas in formal operational state, children can still think in more logical function, but they can consider or they can comprehend more abstract problems. So this is the end of this video presentation about Piaget's cognitive development, and I want you to thank you for listening.